Welcome back to the Backwards History Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Will, here with my co-host, Kevin. Say hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Shut up, Kevin.
Help, I'm being repressed.
Monty Python references for the win.
All the way.
Right. Well, on today's episode, I feel like being controversial and in the moment. What about you, Kevin?
Well, controversy does sell.
There's a certain beta male, or Beto male, Beto O'Rourke.
Common mistake.
Right. It's easy mistake, right?
Easy mistake, totally.
There's a certain presidential candidate on the Democratic side of the two-party destruction system
Yeah.
that said something very, very, very inflammatory to those of us who enjoy not only our Second Amendment rights, but all of our constitutional rights as a whole. Mm-hmm. When you attack the means to defend the rest of the rights, you attack all of them as a whole.
Well put.
So, in the recent presidential debate, Beto O'Rourke said that they're going to take our AR-15s and our AK-47s, which by extension he means all semi-automatic rifles.
I think he would have said more if he knew more guns than just the two hot topic button issues there.
Exactly. I think those are the only two he knows because he's watched too much TV. Because Mr. O'Rourke, from what I understand, has a criminal record. Multiple DUIs, which in some states are felonies.
And they do compound pretty quickly.
And on top of that, he has an arrest record for burglary and theft. Attempted forcible entry and attempted burglary, I believe it was.
You know, those things that having firearm can help protect you against.
Right. Also, felonies.
Yeah, very much so.
And as we know in the United States, what does a felony bar you from being able to own?
I believe firearms and the right to vote.
Right. And you can't even use a firearm. Can't hold it. Can't touch it. Can't caress it when you're lonely at night. But, so someone who has lost his rights due to his own actions wants to take your rights while he enjoys private security as a sitting member of government.
Just kind of let the hypocrisy set in right there for a moment.
Bask in it. Feel the evil warmth from it.
The irony can be overwhelming.
If you've listened to any episode of this podcast, you know where I sit on this topic as the constitutionalist of this podcast. That makes me so very angry. Even on its face, it made me angry. And then I found out his background. And that made me so mad. Kevin, I'm going to let you be the voice of somewhat reason in this, because I'm tempted to get an explicit rating if I don't chill out for a second.
Just take a couple of deep breaths there.
Take a few sips of my coffee and go on about my business.
Now, the problem I take with these inflammatory statements is, as a politician, I can only help but feel because he's been down in the polls since the word go, he's desperate for any media attention.
I mean, dude's name is Beto. Or, hold up, for all the Deadpool fans, his name is actually frickin' Francis.
That should tell you all you need to know.
Yo, I'm going to spell it out for you.
So as a politician, he's hitting hot button issues, trying to buzzwords to scare people, just so people will talk about him on news shows, podcasts. And that's what politicians do, especially when they're trying to win a nomination from a major party. You know, all two of them. All two of them. The problem with that is, even though a lot of Americans wouldn't agree with him on his statement, there's a lot more who will take it as holy writ, as, hey, that guy said, I don't need this, and he's going to take it, so he must be right.
He's taking a strong stance on what we feel needs to happen, so we're going to go with him.
And that's the problem we encounter when we deify government officials or those in, any kind of government office or capacity such as that is. We see them as infallible. They can't lie. They can't be wrong. When you close your mind and your ears to any kind of logic or reason when it comes to any sensible debate, and you decide to go on party lines, regardless of which party, you're going to make really, really bad decisions.
Dollars to donuts. No matter who gets the nomination on the Democratic side of the field, no matter what kind of vitriol they spit towards, or another candidate has spit towards them, as soon as they get that nomination, everybody that was on that stage talking bad about them will all of a sudden be their best friend. Oh, this is the person you should vote for. Because they're part of the same party. It's a team sport.
And that's the part I love about an election season. When you have one party who's not in power, you'll have 15 plus individuals fighting for a nomination, slinging mud, belittling each other in public. I mean, just going at it. And then as soon as the nomination's announced, oh, I have to retract all the bad things I said why you shouldn't vote for this person and now convince you they need your vote.
Case in point. During the Democratic debates and then subsequent presidential race, where Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were at odds. Then once Barack Obama got, they were really, really ugly about each other. Let's be honest.
It got bad. Really,
really bad. And this was like for at least 2 years prior to the actual election, because they knew that each other was their biggest competition.
Right.
Then Barack Obama gets the presidential nomination. Who do they decide needs to be his VP running mate?
Right.
Hillary Clinton. Wasn't she his VP for a short period of time and then ended up swapping?
I know they talked about it for a while. And then she ended up becoming like Secretary of State or something?
Yeah, she was Secretary of State under him, but I think for a short period of time, she was actually his running mate for a little bit of time.
But it's one of those things of, because we're in the party, I'm gonna throw you a bone. You can be Secretary of State. I'll give you some kind of nice, resume padding job and title.
Resume, more like wallet padding, because she used her position as Secretary of State to pad the pockets of the Clinton Foundation. But that's an episode for a later day.
It might be a few episodes.
Several episodes on the Clintons and their body count.
But more recently, with the 2016 election and the subsequent nomination, I'm gonna call it street brawl, because they were going at each other tooth and nail for a long time. As I think most notably is when Ted Cruz finally got knocked out of the race, where he wasn't going to get it. He had to kind of retract all the bad things he had said about Trump.
Oh yeah, him and Trump were going hard at it, and then all of a sudden, Teddy Cruz was just like, out. "Hey, Trump's your man."
And then, not wanting to be outdone, Trump, anytime they were on TV together, would just kind of belittle Ted Cruz in front of people. To let him know, I didn't forget all that mean stuff you said about me.
That's the one thing I will say, even though he's one, he needs to put down the Twitter fingers.
Yeah.
But Trump, while he may be a lot of things, the man at least doesn't pull any punches, and I at least admire him for the fact that he doesn't care how stupid he sounds. He will share his opinion, and I can dig it.
Even if nobody asked for it.
Nobody wanted it, but dude will share his opinion anyway. I'll take that.
But yeah, I feel like we've gotten off a little bit off topic. But
we went down a rabbit hole there for a second.
But when it comes to the question over, I don't even want to call it gun control, it's really amending the Constitution. That would be the only way to have any kind of, I would say, impactful gun control, at least for law-abiding citizens.
The issue that I find with any gun control being toted, or any confiscation, even if you don't call it confiscation, if you call it a mandatory buyback, that's confiscation. Because if you're forcing people to sell their weapons back under the threat of criminal prosecution, should they not, one, what are you buying their weapons back from them with?
Tax money they paid you.
Their own money. Two, you're violating your oath of office. Your oath of office was to uphold and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. How are you upholding the Constitution? By violating it.
Or by threatening to take rights away.
Right. You want the Second Amendment gone? You want to infringe on my Second Amendment rights? Then amend the Constitution as you were meant to from the start. Stop with this half-act bull. 2/3 votes from the states will ratify an amendment to the Constitution. You want to replace the Second Amendment with a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed except for by the government, by whatever means they deem necessary at the time.
You'd have to get the 28th Amendment.
Right. Go ahead and add that as the 28th Amendment. Take away the second. If you want the Second Amendment, do it the right way. You want the Second Amendment, and you think you've got 95% of Americans believe in blah, blah, blah. That's a statistic that I keep hearing rolled out, even though stats can be skewed depending on what your measure is. But
how you present it.
You want my guns? Take them the right way.
And even then, just because you pass something in the law doesn't mean it's just going to happen.
You got to have 2/3 of the state's votes.
I think we all remember Prohibition and how awesome that didn't go.
I mean, let's look at the people who would be supporting Beto. Let's assume that it's going to be those that are in blue states.
Yeah, safe bet.
The county of LA, LA County has higher population density, or population by numbers, than multiple states combined.
Wow.
So, and most of them want a popular vote only presidency. So then you're going to have those of LA County overruling people in other states, i.e. people in LA know what's better for the people of Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana,
Wyoming.
Tennessee, Wyoming, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
The people who live in LA think they know better for other people in other states than those people who live in those states, respectively. No.
And that goes vice versa, too.
So you'll have someone in the presidency making executive orders for gun control. Executive orders on their face are unconstitutional in most regard.
Because it bypasses checks and balances.
Exactly. It makes the executive branch
more powerful than the legislative.
A dictatorial branch.
Right.
No. Do it the right way. You propose, when you start a career as a public servant, as a government official, you swear an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. If you do not serve the Constitution in the correct way, you are committing treason by violating your oath. You are the domestic enemy.
Right. And, by the oath you took, you should remove yourself.
But no one's ever going to do that.
Oh, of course not. There's too much power and money to be made in any kind of public office if, you're not concerned with upholding the law.
The oath of public office is nothing more than ceremony anymore.
True. It's just something you do.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
Right. Even though you're meant to be
an example.
A shining example of what a law-abiding citizen should be. You should hold yourself to higher standards than those who put you there.
But you hold yourself to a higher standard. Yeah. Like, I'm better than you.
I'm looking down on you because I have a fancy title.
I know what's better for you than you.
Right.
So therefore, you don't need that AR-15. You don't need that AK-47. Tell that to the people who defended their homes and stores during the LA riots. Tell that to just recently a young girl. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but a 14-year-old girl was at home with her friends. They were having a sleepover. Mom had gone to the store. I think Dad was at work. Someone tried to kick in their front door. And because of the ease of use of the AR-15, she was able to grab her family's AR-15, load it, and shoot the intruder. That's one of many stories I've seen. A young boy protected his younger sister during a very similar situation. Like parents were gone to the store or something of that nature. And he was able to defend their home with an AR-15. There are more instances of AR-15s being used for 100% lawful purposes,
self-defense,
or sporting purposes, or anything else. There is 100 times, and that may be hyperbolic. I don't know.
Right.
But there are a lot more instances of people using their AR-15 for 100% lawful purposes than there are instances of people using an AR-15 for unlawful purposes.
And those are the stories that don't make mainstream media. We can both tell you from personal accounts, AR-15 is a fantastic weapon as far as ease of use. It's an incredible weapon to have for defense.
Not nearly as destructive as the media wants you to believe.
Right. When used properly and with, a trained individual, I mean, you don't have to be like, Rambo to use this weapon.
Right.
It is.
But this weapon also doesn't make you capable of doing what John Rambo did. No matter how much Hollywood wants to make you feel like the AR-15 is going to, obliterate a house when one pull of the trigger, it's not.
Right. If you remember that movie, he had to go to advanced military training to accomplish
Hollywood military training at that.
Military training. But it feels so much safer to know you're able to defend yourself and your loved ones. With an AR-15, with a handgun, any kind of weapon, knowing that if someone tries to, come into my home and harm me or my people, I can defend myself
effectively, even if it's multiple attackers. When the number of rounds that I have in a handgun just won't do.
Right. And like I said, you don't hear the stories of home invasions that are thwarted by someone who legally possesses a firearm.
It's not fantastic enough for news to report on it.
Right. And I know one of the biggest hot button topics they like to point to is cities like Chicago and Baltimore. Most
of the quote unquote mass shootings, of course, we'll get to that statistic here in a second, but most of the mass shootings that take place in Chicago and or the rest of the country are done with handguns, not semi-automatic rifles.
The thing with handguns is they're easier to conceal.
Right.
And, you can't exactly walk now on the street with an AR stuffed down your pants. You're going to walk kind of funny.
Granted, actually, most states, it's completely legal for you to open carry an AR-15.
Oh, yeah.
You can sling it across your back and walk around town. It's 100% legal. How many times have you seen an individual who was going to commit a crime with their weapon walking around with it openly visible?
Right.
None, pretty much.
When it comes to committing a crime, you don't want to be suspicious. You don't want to look like a suspect. Like, hey, what's that strange guy doing over there?
Right. But the standard that they use for measuring what constitutes as a mass shooting is 3 people.
Right.
Like, someone walks in the room right now while we're recording this, shoots both of us, and then shoots themselves. That's a mass shooting. But that can cover any number of instances. Dude catches his woman with somebody else, kills them. Oh crap, what did I do? Shoots himself. That's a mass shooting.
Murder,
That's
suicide.
A little disingenuous because when I think mass shooting, I'm thinking about what happened recently where someone walks into a Walmart and starts shooting people.
Right.
I'm thinking at least 5 people. Now, I'm not saying that I need to mark it up, that it's not a tragedy that multiple people have died if it's not 5 or more.
Right.
but it's disingenuous. It has the wrong connotation.
It's like trying to pad the stats almost to try to prove your point.
Right. It's like calling, a small raid a war.
Right.
It's not the same, Another thing that they toed around is the gun violence death numbers.
Mm-hmm.
At least 40%, around 40% of the numbers that they use, or the deaths that they put to quote unquote gun violence,
Right.
are suicides.
Right.
People committing violence against themselves. Is that really violence?
No, I mean
That's a gun death, yes.
gun death, and it's very sad and tragic that someone takes their own life. But regardless of how they take their life, I don't think they want to end up another statistic.
But that's a mental health issue, not a
Right.
gun violence issue.
Right, because as a historian, if y'all don't know this, people have been violent for a really, really long time, long before the invention of gunpowder.
Right.
People have come up with some of the most obscure but ingenious ways of causing harm to other people. Just ungodly things, and I would like to do in the
No,
future.
Kevin, no. Without guns, this planet is a utopia. No one hurts anyone without guns. Don't you know that?
I got several thousand years of human history that would suggest otherwise. But in a future episode, I go over various ways, creative ways people have come up with to kill other people throughout history.
It's a morbid episode.
It is, but it's one of those I think would highlight the fact that people are trash and have been trashed in the entire existence of humanity.
People will find a way. If they want to hurt someone else, they'll find a way to hurt someone else. I mean, look at most martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them don't use weapons at all, and they're some of the most effective means to hurt another person ever devised. No weapons
You
involved.
don't have to carry nothing with you. Another good example is violent people who are in prison. They come up with all kinds of ways to create weapons from everyday objects.
Sharpen a plastic spoon from the cafeteria or your toothbrush.
Right. I mean, just you can watch some of those shows and see like the ingenuity behind this. Like they
Right.
really want to hurt somebody, they'll find a way.
And then you look at instances like Timothy McVeigh or 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
You got for the Oklahoma City bombing, you've got a dude with a diesel truck and ammonium nitrate, aka fertilizer,
A buttload of fertilizer.
blew up a building. And then you got the attacks on 9/11. Dudes took over planes. If we believe the official story, due to the official story, they hijacked planes with box cutters, frickin' box cutters, and then flew them into buildings, killing thousands of people. No guns.
None.
No guns. Zero guns.
I think the point of this whole episode is violence in any form is violence, regardless of what means you use to carry it out. So to call something gun violence, it's just violence.
I'm with you on that.
You know?
But that may be your point to this episode.
Well, that's my point.
But
To
my whole
clarify.
point to this episode, Francis, Beto, Beta. You want it? Come get it. And as always, trust, but verify.